I know my shirt Get Naked, they're gonna be like,
What is that? We're going to talk about getting naked.
Okay, guys and gals, thanks for joining us. It's been a while since I posted anything on YouTube. I'm pretty excited about this one. This interview has been a long time coming with this man sitting next to me, and he has the resume to back up what he's selling, but it's mostly what he puts out, just motivational content that I'm really pumped on. Retired Navy SEAL, sniper, 27 years.
26 years, yeah.
26 years,
Yep.
Retired SEAL team, senior chief.
Yep.
Mr. William Branum. How are you, brother?
Doing awesome. Thanks for having me. I think I don't know if I qualify for all those words, but I appreciate it.
Okay. Did you get a workout this morning?
No. That'll be this afternoon.
This afternoon, okay.
Yeah.
So what is it daily for you? Like, tell me your quick routine and when you wake up in the morning.
Try to get up around 6 a.m., have some coffee. I like to sit out on the deck out back, watch sunrise, and then kind of start the day with the family, look at email, kind of attack some of those issues that could potentially have come up. You know, living in Hawaii, we're 5 hours off the East Coast, so things happen during that time while we're sleeping. So check some emails and then go attack the day, whatever the day's tasks are. And really, the day starts the night before.
Yeah.
So you know, it took me a while to really figure that out. Actually, I learned it in the SEAL teams. I learned it in the military. You know, oh my gosh, we have to get up early. So I would lay my clothes out on the floor, and or even when I travel to the East Coast and I have to wear something nice, I iron it the night before. I plan out whatever I'm going to talk about, the night before, and that way when I get up in the morning, I don't have any distractions. I don't have any question about what I'm going to do that day. I go ahead and I have my list, and I go ahead and attack the day, whatever that.
Right. It's like the mental preparation, the physical preparation prior, so that way you can sleep better.
Right.
The night before. Let me grab my list. Get Naked, it's the product line that he came up with, the CBD. And but it goes back to the history of being in the frogs. The original teams was the Naked Warrior. And we're going to go to that, but I really want to talk a little bit about being in the teams. So let's go back in time.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about your youth, like growing up. Did you always want to be a SEAL? Were you athletic? And then where are you from?
So originally I'm from Meridian, Mississippi. There's not a lot there. I've gone back to visit a few times, and it's not super exciting. But when I was a kid, I was in the Boy Scouts, and I became an Eagle Scout, and that's where I heard about a Navy SEAL. I always knew from a young age that I wanted to do something in the military, be part of some elite team. I didn't really know what that meant. Being from Mississippi, there were no books, there were no movies. Actually, at some point, the movie Navy SEALs came out, but I don't think I ever saw it until I was in the Navy.
So you weren't a frog first, sorry. Or did you intentionally join the Navy to be a SEAL?
I did join the Navy to become a SEAL. So, as I was trying to figure it out as a Boy Scout without any real guidance on like anything in the military, I went to the National Jamboree in Fort AP Hill, Virginia, which I later went back and did training there as a SEAL. Once I joined the Navy and became a SEAL, and I've done a lot of training there. We went on this national jamboree. We went to Washington D.C. We whitewater rafted in Tennessee somewhere, and I met someone else in the Boy Scouts, and he wanted to be a pilot, and he's like, I want to be a pilot and a Navy SEAL. And I was like, that's really cool. What's a Navy SEAL? And he kind of told me about it. And then I was exposed to it again at I taught in summer camp. I taught on the rifle range, and I was also a lifeguard in the Boy Scouts. Nice. So, so we had a campfire one night, and a naval aviator came out and gave some motivational, talk about being in the military or being a pilot or whatever. And after it was over, I went over and, kind of hunted him down. And I was like, hey man, I want to be a SEAL and I want to be a pilot. And he was like, oh, Navy SEALs. Yeah. In my OCS class, there was a SEAL who was an enlisted guy, and he became an officer. So he had to go through officer candidate school. And anytime the class got in trouble, the drill instructor would take him outside. He would make him do 8-count bodybuilders for like an hour around the barracks, and then he'd come back in, and he hadn't even broken a sweat. And I was like, yeah, that's what that's the guy I want to be. So one day in the summer between 11th and 12th grade, the Navy detailer called me, and I didn't really know what I was going to do or how to go about doing anything. And the Navy recruiter called me, and he said, "Hey, you ever think about joining the military?" I was like, "Yeah, I was thinking about becoming a Navy SEAL." And he's like, "Check, got ya." And so he brought me into the office. I watched this really cheesy video with like really bad CGI and these guys like fast roping out of helicopters and swimming in and diving and blowing stuff up and shooting guns. And I was like, yep, that's what I want to do. Where do I sign? So that's how I joined the Navy. That's how I learned about, Navy SEALs, because there weren't, movies or books or anything else back then.
Wow, interesting that you didn't even really know what a Navy SEAL was.
Correct.
That's
I
crazy.
knew that they
so was
were...
Mississippi, was that on the Gulf? Like where you were in Mississippi? Was
no,
that part
I was
of the Gulf?
like kind of in the middle of the state.
Okay, so no ocean background at all?
No.
Wow, that's
Nothing.
impressive. The fact you didn't grow up in the ocean, because obviously the SEALs spent a ton of time.
Right.
And Buds is heavily inundated in being
ocean,
in the big surf,
Yep.
holding your breath. Wow, that's pretty cool. That's a success story right there. So even if you're coming from the mainland, you have a chance.
Anyone has a chance.
Anyone has a chance.
Anyone can do it.
Right.
You just have to want it.
That's it. You just got to want it.
Yeah.
Want it bad enough, right? Okay, so just give us a glimpse of what life is like as in the teams. Just once you get through all the training, the reality of it being in the teams. The lifestyle that is the job, the brotherhood. Just the connection, the camaraderie, the reality. Of losing teammates in training, in battle, because you were a sniper, so you obviously seen some pretty heavy stuff.
The reality is life in the teams is not the same as it is on TV. On TV, it's very sexy, very glamorous, very. In reality, you do a lot of training. Most of your time is training, but that's good because then you are prepared for when you go into harm's way to deal with whatever that adversity is. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to deal with a teammate, especially like someone who's you've done a workup with, you've become very close with, and then things happen and then they're not there anymore, and that's not cool, and that's very that'll bring a team down very quickly. Mm-hmm. And it takes good leadership in the team and the group and the platoon to help bring, hey, bad guys took out one of our boys, we have to we're extra focused now. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it wasn't a mistake that we made that caused us to lose a critical asset to the team and a friend and a brother. So that's why going back to training is critical. Mm-hmm. The highest quality training that we could possibly, we get the highest quality training on the planet because we've gone overseas. I've worked with a lot of units from all branches, and we will maybe we're walking into the target, patrolling into a target, or we're on target, and I'm watching these other units and how they're moving and operating, and I'm a little scared. I'm like, okay, well, you guys go first. Not to say, they're all great. They're all great units, but they just don't have the same level of training. Sure. And
you're not pushing the envelope as much as you guys may be, or
a little carefree, or not as disciplined.
Okay.
And it's not their fault. They just haven't been trained in that way. We become so good at working at night. I know if it's half a block away in downtown Baghdad, just by the way you walk or the way you stand, and I'm looking under night vision goggles and it's completely pitch black. I just know by your movement, and I know everyone on the team how they look at night just by how they walk. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting. I was on one deployment. I was augmenting a SEAL platoon, and I hadn't done a workup with them. I was in the kind of headquarters element, and then one of the leaders, the platoon chief, he came up to me. He was like, "Who are you?" And then he saw who I was. Like, okay, because I didn't work up with them, so he didn't know.
Gotcha. He could identify.
He's like, "You're like a stranger out here on the battlefield. Who are you?" "Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, gotcha."
Wow.
So it's interesting, and I was able to work with that platoon enough on that deployment that they started to recognize me. I'm the oddball out there, and I started recognizing them. So because we only worked at night, so that was a critical piece of the the training, they went through a workup that I didn't go through because I was in the headquarters element, but because of the previous training I had, I was able to seamlessly blend in and work on the same tactics, techniques, and procedures, during that deployment.
Okay, so what's the heaviest thing you've had to deal with, or even maybe a battle situation you can share? Heaviest thing. I mean, it could be training too, but I think ops people want to hear more about.
Let me think about this.
No, you're good. Take your time. It might be something that's.
So, I would say not the heaviest.
Scariest.
The heaviest. Oh, we'll just go. We'll roll with scary.
Okay, scariest thing happens.
So scary is, I guess, the scariest thing. So when I was 15, I was shot hunting.
Whoa.
So anytime I was in combat and we were in a gunfight, I wasn't too worried about being shot. I'm like, bro, I've been shot before. You guys potentially, I just, you just figure that
you
stuff
get that
out.
one up on them.
Right. I'm like, what are the chances of me getting shot again?
What's it like? What's it like if I get shot?
It actually doesn't hurt that bad. It hurts. Like you get hit with a baseball or baseball bat or something. But it's not what you think. But the thing I think that was the scariest was when stuff started blowing up right next to me or right next to us. Roadside bombs, and we're in they're Humvees, but we're using them like pickup trucks. So we have like 5 guys inside and 4 guys outside, so we can take as many people, and we're rolling through downtown Baghdad or wherever, and we're just sitting out there in the back of a pickup truck basically. And bombs are going off just a few feet away. They're actually EFPs, explosive force penetrator, and what they are, they're a shape charge that came from Iran, and you pack explosive behind this copper plate, and then when the EFP is detonated, what happens is it takes this copper plate and it turns it inside out, and it becomes this projectile, this molten copper projectile, and it will cut through any armor on the planet. It's quite devastating. But because we, going back to our training, because we, and this also goes back to working with other units, we train to drive very fast under night vision goggles, through very chaotic situations and terrain. They missed us almost every time. Wow. We did get hit one time and we lost some people. But when they're going off like, no kidding.
Right. And that
6 feet away.
Wow.
And they were just missing. Everything. Yeah. There was actually a gunfight going on over here, and this was one of those things where I'm like, people have asked me about, killing people or whatever. And that's not a big deal. My biggest thing was actually this particular night, there was someone who I felt like I should have shot, and I didn't. And it was this is maybe politically incorrect or something. It was an Iraqi police officer, but they're corrupt. They're,
sure.
It's a weird political environment over there. And there was an army unit that was in it. We're on our way to a different target, but there was an army unit in a gunfight over here, and we were kind of passing by them as they were, in their gunfight. And then we came around a corner, and I looked up, and again, we're just sitting in the back of these Humvees, and I looked up, and then I saw this Iraqi police officer get on his phone and start calling. I'm like, what is he doing? That is not, something about that is not right. And not less than 60 seconds later, boom, boom. I'm like, oh, we need to, right? Yeah. Well, they were like, and then they were like shooting at us also.
Wow.
Yeah. So I didn't know that we were getting shot at also, until we got back, and there were like all these like bullet marks on the side of the truck. Like, oh, and it was funny. Ego gets in the way of life sometimes. The ego's really good, a good motivator, and it's also something that will get you killed. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was funny. So in our truck, we're all just sitting there and we're like, oh, we just missed 2 explosions. That's cool. And then we know people are shooting, but we can't see them. We're under bright street lights, and we like to be under darkness. Yeah. And we're just looking, and one of the guys in the back of the truck, he's like, so you guys want to get down lower in the truck? And immediately we were like, yep, that's a good idea. Got down. So, we're all like just sitting up nice and tall, like nothing bad is going to happen to us.
And you're in street lights, like,
and we're like, this is not. And then it was the junior guy. He was like, he had no ego in the whole. He's like, do you guys want to get lower? Because he didn't want to do it unless the older guys did it.
Right.
And so yeah, that was like an example of like all of our egos were sort of almost could have potentially gotten us killed.
Your ego can get you killed.
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. That's pretty.
That
is pretty heavy.
That was like a weird
that is a heavy, scary combination. Especially when you shared that about this device that could potentially just cut through any type of armor,
right?
Armored plate. Anything.
Right. And so and when we started working with some of the army units that had these sort of big armored vehicles, those EFPs would cut right through there. So what they ended up doing is they took these big plastic jerry cans, and filled them with sand. And so that sand, and then mounted them all around the outside of the vehicle, and so the sand would actually stop the EFP from penetrating.
So sand would do it over steel. Right. Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Makes sense, I guess. But they weighed down that truck.
It's one of those, yeah.
Right.
Well, it's already like super armored.
Yeah.
So
it's a little extra, an extra layer.
It's good for like a big blast, but it wasn't made for this this molten projectile that just laser. It's a laser beam.
Right.
Yeah.
So how many years as a sniper?
Let's see. I think I was a SEAL for less than a year before they sent me to sniper school.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's usually that quick. Was it something like, hey, who wants to go to sniper school, or is it kind of like you're handpicked on your marksmanship?
A combination of both. Some of it was I was a pretty good shot.
You were a hunter.
I was a hunter. I did grow up hunting, and I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Hey, we have billets. We need to send people.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to go? Yes. Where? Sniper school. Yes, I do.
Okay. So the reality of being a sniper, a lot of things I heard is like literally you can just sit in one spot for days. And you got to like pee and poo on yourself, or is it more you're going to pee and poo in a bottle?
It's not quite like that, but it is.
You can't move. You can't
it's not as sexy as it sounds.
Sure. But is that kind of true? Like the reality, like you can't move. You're in a spot. You can be compromised.
No, not really. I mean, if that is your reality, then you did a bad job planning. And now you're going to pay for it.
Okay.
So in reality, a sniper's job is really just to observe an area, maybe take pictures,
Recon.
send that intel back to the headquarters. The secondary mission of a sniper is to shoot people.
Okay.
There were a lot of sniper ops in Iraq, where we would go and sit up, and guys would come and like dig a hole. So their TTPs were, one guy would come up, he would dig a hole, with a shovel, and then he would leave. Another guy would kind of roll by and like drop something off in the hole.
Interesting.
And then someone else would come by and like cover it back up. So without getting into TTPs or
what does it mean anyway? TTPs.
Tactics, techniques, and procedures.
Okay.
Or rules of
acronyms,
without giving away rules of engagement, like who can you shoot when, and the rules of engagement are basically if you feel like your life is in danger or someone else, another service member's life is in danger, you are basically cleared hot to take out the threat.
Sure. And what was your percentage of just doing recon versus actual targets?
It depends on what the mission was. A lot of times it was recon stuff, and then maybe a target would pop up, and then you could go down that road. But if it was a sniper mission, a counter IED mission, those ROEs maybe shifted some. And we also found that going back to that the guy on the phone, we also found that oftentimes when a coordinated attack would happen to an outpost or to a checkpoint, if you shot the guy with the cell phone, the entire attack ended.
It's always that.
It's when we figured that out, we were able to make a big difference.
So the stuff you see in the movies, that's pretty accurate, because that does happen a lot.
Oh yeah, I forget that there's movies out there about that.
If you watched a lot of these more recent.
I don't watch many.
I'm just more curious, like, because I know you said in the beginning it's not as glamorous and sexy as Hollywood tends to make it.
Right.
But I feel like some of the movies I've seen
There's
more
certainly,
recently are kind of like, wow, that's pretty, seems realistic.
There
of
is
war
reality,
and the chaos and the getting shot from multiple directions, and even the ones that were made of supposedly from real stories, like Lone Survivor, or American Sniper, and stuff like that. So as a sniper, I'm curious, and I'm sure other people are curious. How many?
A few. Something. There's some number out there. I'm not sure what it is. It's interesting.
So when I went through BUD/S, I wasn't a SEAL, I became a Navy diver, but I remember the instructors telling us, you have to be able to shoot somebody in the face and never think about it again.
Sure.
And I just was like, I honestly, mentally didn't know if I could handle that.
Right.
Like, my dad was a frog.
Right.
He was definitely pretty mental. I love the man to death, but he was intimidating. And like, the reality of it all came to fruition when I was there.
Right.
So like,
and it's
does it?
I went pre 9/11, so I went to BUD/S pre 9/11. Like there was no conflict.
There was no motivation for
there was some stuff. Even when I got to the team, the only things that were really happening were Kosovo, Bosnia. There was some weird stuff going on there.
How long did you get out? Sorry.
I got out in 2018.
Okay, so you did see a lot of combat.
War
on Terror.
My first
2002
combat deployment was in Afghanistan in 2003.
Okay, wow. So right after it was.
And then my last one was 2015, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So I think in order to bridge, how you managed to, or why you turned to CBD, I'm thinking it's kind of connected to what you've experienced.
Sure.
Some of the maybe PTSD, maybe some of the struggle to kind of go back to civilian life after you've lived this 26 years as a frog, and the things you've seen. So can you share a little bit? Because I personally don't know anything about CBD, minus the popularity is
super popular. But before we go there, I just want to address a concern that you had when they said, well, you have to shoot someone in the face and just be cool with it. I went to BUD/S pre 9/11, and we had a guy go through BUD/S. He was the class leader. He was an officer. He was in the regular Navy for a little while. And he graduated BUD/S. He went to SEAL Team 8. And at some point after he was a SEAL, he decided, you know what, this maybe is not for me. Like, I don't know that I'm cool with maybe having to kill someone someday. Mm-hmm. And so he turned in his trident, and
that was it.
That was it.
Walked away from it.
And I was like, what? How? What? But I didn't really think about how everyone is wired differently.
Right.
Some people are more empathetic than others. Some people, people process things differently. So it's certainly understandable, and everyone has, I'll say, baggage. Everyone has baggage that you have to manage.
Right.
And sometimes you're not ready to manage that baggage until later on in life, or it's like you compartmentalize it, but it's going to come back up. It doesn't matter what it is, it's going to come back up, and it always does. So for me, I think my road to CBD, I heard about CBD before it became cool. I was listening to a podcast on the way to work one day, and the guy talked about medical marijuana, which I'm like, I've never smoked weed or anything like that, never had any THC, but I'm like, dude, the amount of what alcohol has done to me, THC can't be worse.
Sure. Can you share that real quick?
What do you mean?
Just the alcohol thing.
So I have baggage, and there's a bunch of noise in my head, and it's very hard for me to go to sleep at night. And so to combat that noise, I would just have vodka rocks. I'm just gonna have one. Oh, I feel better. I'll have another one. And then several later, the noise is quiet. I'm a disaster, and eventually I go to bed. That's not that easy to wake up in the morning and do your job all over again. And that is a common trait for tons of veterans, first responders, you name it. It can be for not necessarily, it could be for school teachers or ER docs, nurses. They see some crazy stuff. Take the edge off, and then take it off a little more. Okay, now I can, So that was my experience, and so I'd heard about this molecule called CBD because the guy was like, oh, everyone knows THC and it has these medicinal benefits, but there's this other molecule called CBD, and it has all these other medicinal benefits. And I was like, oh, that's cool, but I still am in the Navy. I still have a top secret clearance. I'm probably not going to go down that road or explore it at all. And I'm also a child of Nancy Reagan's war on drugs, just say no. So even when I got out of the Navy, I was still scared to try CBD.
Sure. But there's no narcotic effect.
There's no psychoactive effect of CBD. It does something different to your body.
Okay.
So the way I ended up trying CBD is I was back in Virginia, taking care of some personal business, and I had lunch with a friend of mine, a former teammate, and I said, you know what, when I leave here, I'm going to go get some, see if I can find some CBD, because maybe what you have here in Virginia is better than what we have in Hawaii. I don't actually know. He's like, you want CBD? I have some. He's an Instagram influencer. He probably wouldn't like me to say that, but he kind of is, and he has a good following, so some companies sent him some products. And so he gave me a bottle. I tried it that night. That night I slept a little bit better, and I woke up and I was a little less pissed off. And what I like to say to people, like to kind of like put it into perspective, is I was probably, water boils at 212 degrees. I was probably walking around at 210 degrees.
Just on the edge.
So
constantly.
like it doesn't take much to you know,
just one
get over
poke
that.
And you're like,
right, exactly. So for me, and everyone's different. For me, taking CBD for the first time, I went from like 210 to 208 to 205 to 200, and it was like this incremental decrease. And I didn't really see it in the beginning, but after about 3 weeks or so, I looked back and I was like, I'm just less pissed off. I'm like, my quality of life is better. And other things that happened is I would like go do some sort of movement that is the stabbing pain for me, and it wasn't stabbing anymore. I'm already grimacing as I'm doing it, and I can go farther. I'm like, oh, that was cool. And then I finished that bottle of CBD, and then I didn't really equate the two. And then eventually, pain started coming back. I started, going back into that red zone, a little bit closer to 212 when I stopped taking CBD. And I was like, maybe there was a correlation. I don't really know. Because you don't feel anything. It's not like alcohol or anything.
You're expecting
You're
to
just
be
like
some kind of mind-alteringness to it.
It's not. And so I tried CBD again, and like things came back down, and then I started like researching, and found an opportunity to start my own company. And so I'm like, this has helped me. So I want to share it with other people to, especially people who are of service, who's, have jobs that give to the public, to give to the nation, that they're leaders, they're servant leaders, whether they are first responders, military, veterans, doctors, etc. Those are the people that I'm trying to serve. And like, I know you have issues. I mean, even like,
for sure,
stay-at-home moms, they're dealing with a lot of, if they have like,
it's hard
kids
work.
with like special needs, like these are people of service. So I want to try to help these people deal with whatever trauma they may have, anxiety, stress, things like that, just to like bring.
And how they're raised too. Everyone has some kind of brokenness in their life, from family, friend. It's the reality of this world we live in.
It is. It's true. So, I started Naked Warrior Recovery to try and get the highest quality CBD product to as many people as I can. And as I started digging into the CBD industry, it's a dirty industry. Like when it kicked off, people were making CBD in their garage. Oh gosh, they were in their second bedroom,
like pressure cookers or something like that. Slow cooker. And
so the way that CBD is extracted from the cannabis plant or the hemp plant is you can use a couple different ways, but the easy way, the cheap way, is to use like an ethanol, like turpentine or whatever, and use that to extract the CBD out of the plant. It's safe enough if you're able to burn off that ethanol through evaporation and some other stuff, but people don't. They're just in a hurry. We're going to make money real quick and like just get it done.
So the quality controls is not there.
Zero quality control.
So you found somebody who can do it properly.
So I went out and I found suppliers.
Okay.
That create have the highest quality CBD, organic practices. We just now are starting to have, and there's different kinds of CBD out there also. I went for the people who had a THC free, because the THC is still kind of a dirty word in the world, especially if you're exposed to drug testing.
Sure.
But there's three basic kinds of CBD. There's a full spectrum, which has all the good stuff from the hemp plant, but it also has the CBD, and it also has the THC.
Okay. There's
a CBD isolate, where they only extract the molecule CBD, and all the other good stuff that comes with the hemp plant is discarded. And then there's a broad spectrum, so you get all the good stuff, but we actually extract the THC out of all the other minor cannabinoids and terpenes in order to kind of work on this full, they call it an entourage effect, all the different minor cannabinoids working inside the human body, because every mammal has what's called an endocannabinoid system. And I know I'm going kind of fast, and I'll try to hit it again a couple times.
Okay. I'm learning a lot.
So we naturally create endogenous cannabinoids in our own body, and it feeds this endocannabinoid system. We create 2-AG and anandamide. Anandamide is this feel-good molecule that we create. You get it. It's oftentimes expressed when you work out, and that kind of the runner's high. It goes right along with that.
Post-workout, you're all pumped.
Right. And so these molecules, these endogenous molecules, they feed the endocannabinoid system, or the ECS. And why CBD seems like it's this panacea, or it fixes everything, or whatever, is because it sometimes your body doesn't make enough cannabinoids. Your endocannabinoid system gets out of whack, and it's actually this giant neuroreceptor that's connected to every other system in your body. It's connected to your digestive system, your central nervous system, your respiratory system, your immune system. It's connected to everything. So if that gets out of whack, then that brings everything else kind of out of where it needs to be, out of homeostasis. So what CBD does, it's kind of like a multivitamin for your endocannabinoid system to help bring it back into homeostasis, and helps your body heal itself or run the way it's supposed to run.
Wow, incredible.
So I know that was a lot of...
No, that was a great,
that was
a great crash course, but I was like, wow, help me understand it a lot better. And why the push, I keep seeing more and more and more professional athletes with some certain CBD companies, like their sponsors on their surfboards, or the snowboard companies. And my initial thought was always like, oh, it's just, marijuana. It's just legal, medicinal marijuana. But that you can extract it separately, or you can have the full or the broad.
And that's kind of the, going back to the CBD industry when it first kicked off. There's still some bad actors out there. It's starting to self-regulate and clean itself up.
People are still seeking the high, or a reason to need the high, but really you need the...
The FDA has gone out and done several spot checks on different companies, and they found that 90% of the companies out there either have high levels of THC in their CBD that's not supposed to have any THC in it, high levels of THC, no CBD, high levels of heavy metals, mercury, arsenic, pesticides, herbicides, and so So it's important to know where your product comes from, and all of my products. This is not a CBD product. We'll use this one. So everything has a QR code. So everything that we sell is third-party tested by an uninterested lab, and it's tested for all THC. The amount of CBD, because if I'm selling you something and I say it has 25 milligrams of CBD in it, it needs to have at least 25 milligrams of CBD in it. It shouldn't have any arsenic or pesticides or heavy metals or lead or mercury or any of that other crap. If you're putting something in your body to become as a medicine, a natural medicine, you shouldn't be putting poisons in there. And the reason that again, it's important to know where your hemp comes from is because hemp is a bioaccumulator. That just means it pulls all the good stuff out of the soil. It also pulls all the bad stuff out of the soil. And it's such a powerful bioaccumulator. They're using hemp at Chernobyl to clean the radiation out of the soil to help maybe one day go back in. So if you get some Chernobyl hemp, some Chernobyl CBD, who knows what that'll do for you.
No, I didn't realize that the plant had that ability to do that. I mean, you just hear from history from a long time ago, and it's just how beneficial the plant is all around. You know, the strength of it, the renewableness of it, just you know. And then now we have CBD being extracted from it.
Right.
So the fact that, you know, you're focusing yours more on the first responder, the people trying to recover from various different PTSDs or just
some sort
various
of
struggles,
traumatic events.
Yeah, traumatic
and it
events
can be
people
anything.
go through.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, everyone processes trauma differently. So.
Right. Wow, it's cool. I have my own baggage.
We all do.
Yeah, and just, you know, getting, you know, a good night's sleep is so essential for people. You know, like that alone. I'm like, I think I'll try that one first.
Right.
There's always so much on the mind. You know, just like what's the next day gonna tell, or my son, or what, you know, like whatever the, you know, planning something out in the future. I'm really interested in trying a lot of this.
And you know, that good night's sleep, it starts with that planning. What are you going to do the next day?
Exactly.
And I'm still guilty of it. Sometimes I'll just be working or I'll be messing around. And if I miss that, even if I take, you know, everyone can take a different dose. So some people can take a 10 milligram gummy and they're like, ooh, lights out, see you tomorrow. Wow. Other people, I'm more on the 50 to 200 milligrams of CBD to like, and it changes the quality of sleep. You know, if I screw around and I miss that, you know, I'll take this. It has 1 milligram of melatonin, the sleep formula, and 25 milligrams of CBD. I'll take 2 or 4 or whatever, depending like how amped I am. And I do that about 30 minutes before I'm ready to go to bed, or I think I'm ready to go to bed. If I and then at about 20-25 minutes, I start getting tired. That's my cue to go to bed.
Right.
If I push through that tiredness, I could be up, you know, till 3 in the morning.
I can relate. Okay, so I know we got cut off. We had some camera issues, but what I was saying was when I'm reading to my son every night, I'm like, that puts me to sleep. But I get myself up. I'm so ready to go to sleep. I get myself up because I got stuff I still got to take care of before the night's done, you know. But then like you're saying, I feel like, man, and then I have a hard time sleeping because I'm like, and then I'm waiting till 10:30, 11, and I should have been going to bed at 8:30 with him.
Right. So really, I mean, and I've fallen into that trap as well. And what I've found is the right thing to do is just go to sleep.
Just go to sleep.
Enjoy it, embrace it, and sleep, which is hard for me to do because I'm a little bit ADD. And a little bit FOMO, and so I'm not missing anything. But just get up early, like
get up early,
whatever,
take care of it.
Get up and then start, and then attack the day. You're a little bit behind, but you're getting up, and maybe you're getting 30 minutes, an hour more into the day, and then you know, maybe try to make that nightly list earlier.
Yeah. Well, that attack the day, and that was like the biggest thing. So the quick background how I actually met William here was introduced mutually through Instagram.
Yep.
And one of my buddies reached out to me and said, "Hey, you need to line up with this guy because I know you're trying to create more things that are going to help people." Right. That's really what I feel like. That's what we're here for. Yeah. Our purpose is to really, take our God-given gifts and use them to bless people, to help people. Right. And I saw that. It was one particular post you had about first responders.
Yep.
And then I just saw so many other ones where it was motivating. And I really looked up to that, like it fired me up. There's plenty of times where I'm just like over it, like I don't want to go work out. I don't want to try to make something else or whatever it may be, so it's like that mental toughness, the same thing they teach you, going through the SEAL training and having that and attacking the day and just getting through those mental barriers. And
it's like find that discipline. It's like, motivation dies, motivation doesn't last. It's you just have to stay disciplined in whatever it is you want to do.
Well, then, Naked Warrior, the whole premise, the name, get naked. It's like exposing yourself, admitting things, and then just overcoming, admitting your faults, your failures, whatever it is that, you need to overcome that. It's like this mental block barrier that we are our own fault, basically. Like not our fault, but we are our biggest hurdle to get over ourselves. So tell me a little bit about Naked Warrior, the name,
so that's it. So the predecessor to today's Navy SEAL they were these underwater demolition team guys. They were called the Naked Warriors, and so that is sort of carried with us, over throughout history, and even today we still call guys, some nostalgic people will call us, the Naked Warriors, And but part of the naked warrior is being a naked warrior is we walk around with this ego on, and maybe we've been attacked by a toxic relationship, or you're doing your job, you're a police officer, and you just get attitude after attitude after attitude, or you work in the ER, attitude, and you're trying to be of service, but you just continue to get attacked. And it can be from a child, or from a sibling, or a coworker. It doesn't matter. We just get attacked constantly. That's just the way life is right now. And so eventually you just have this armor up that you wear around all the time, and this damage that you've sustained just festers, and you can never heal, and it creates more anxiety and more stress, and I don't want to do. And so part of getting naked is taking that armor off, becoming a naked warrior. Because in the SEAL teams, we go into harm's way, we put armor on,
right,
we do our job, maybe we even get shot in the armor. Awesome, we had it on. And then you come back, you take it off, you clean up, and you recover. In life, we don't get to do that. You go home and you're still wearing your armor. You are, maybe you're talking to your significant other, and you just start snapping at them because you're on edge all the time.
Right.
And so getting naked is okay, before you walk in the door, take that armor off.
Yeah. Leave the baggage at the door, your frustrations at the door.
You're never going to be able to heal from that damage, that abuse. I'm going to use air quotes for abuse, because abuse comes in a lot of different ways.
Verbal, physical, mental, emotional.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, you just get naked. It's that simple. I mean, it's hard to do, but really, it's just take the armor off, take the ego off, and learn how to heal yourself, because you never ever will if you are always carrying that armor around. Mm-hmm. So that's really the kind of the two-sided story of the naked warrior.
Right. What are some tangible ways people can do to conquer these same things? I mean, it's the mental, the block or whatever it is. I mean, what are some tangible ways? What do you think? Is it I read something where it was setting micro goals in some of the SEAL stuff.
Right.
You want to run a 10K? Well, go run a 1K first, and then a 2K. Don't just keep fixated on the 10K.
Right.
Or the Iron Man. You're okay, we'll do the 10K first.
So I guess it's a technique that we learn in POW survival school. Mm-hmm. Are these micro victories, small victories. You're put into a prisoner of war camp. You're in a cell, you have a bag over your head, you're handcuffed, you're whatever. It's completely miserable, and you've got this crazy music playing, and they cut off all sensory deprivation, whatever that word is.
Yeah, deprivation.
And you don't have contact with your team or anything else or any other Americans, and they're talking to you in different accents and different languages and smacking you around. And a small victory might be you knock on the door, on the wall, and there's someone else, and they knock back. Now you've started a little bit of communication, and then you start to build on that. So that's a small win. I was able to communicate with someone who's going through the same thing that I'm going through. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then and then you work out some sort of code to understand, or maybe you see someone and you're it's small things, just try to just kind of what you said. If you're going to run, you want to run a 20K, run 1K.
Right.
Run
build up to it.
Half a K, and then tomorrow do that again, and then go a little bit further, and then every day, a little bit farther. And I actually just saw a guy post something on he deadlifted 650 pounds, and people are no, you can't do that. He's yeah, every day that I lifted, I did deadlifts, I put 2.5 pound plates on.
Right, that's it.
I just added 2.5 pounds
2.5
until
pounds,
I finally got there. And really, it comes down to kind of what you measure.
Sure.
If you don't measure your successes, how are you going to know you're going to be in successes? Or how do you know if you're falling behind and you end up in this pit of despair because you weren't paying attention?
Right. Yeah, the discipline of it, right? I mean, working out is hard. It's not easy, but what's easy, what's better, getting obese and unhealthy and getting cancer or whatever it may be, and then you're just stuck to the couch, so you never get off of it.
Right. That was that kind of clicked for me in buds because I got hurt a bunch. I was it's a 6-month block of training, and it took me 13 months to get through it.
Okay. Wow.
You know, I broke bones and whatever, and I was never a good runner, but there was no time I wanted to run more in my life than when I was hurt.
Wow.
I was hurt, and I'm like watching my old class running. I'm seeing people run down the Strand and Coronado. I'm like, all I want to do in my life is run right now.
Yeah, when you can't run, that's when you run the most.
I became disabled, you know, just a broken bone, not a big deal.
Right.
But I'm like, it was that opportunity was taken away from
just
me.
Watching, right?
Right, and I'm like, oh,
you don't appreciate your legs till you can't use them anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Wow, that's great. And then, you know, for anyone aspiring to be a frog, you know, do you have any words of wisdom, any encouragement you can give them? You know,
I would say,
going back to the beginning of the video, and it kind of wraps all this into one.
I would say if you want to do it, just do it. Just go out there and do it. Don't live your life with regret, ever.
Right.
You know, a lot of people show up to Buds and they're like, I want to be here, and then they quit before the class even starts.
Wow.
And, you know,
you're like,
it was very weird for me.
Right.
And you know, I saw people show up and they're like, yep, I'm not that cold. I just can't deal with the cold.
They didn't know till they was
okay. But you know, don't be self-limiting. You know, have what's the word have we talked about earlier? Unrealistic expectations.
Okay. Don't have them.
Don't be self-limiting. Create unrealistic expectations and then go after them. You know, people are like, oh, becoming a Navy SEAL. SEAL training is the hardest thing in the world. Well, it's not. It's actually fun if you make it fun.
Right.
It's about what you have up here.
Right.
You want it to be fun, it'll be fun. It's going to suck.
Right. Yeah, my dad told me, he goes, it's mind over matter. If you don't mind, it won't matter.
Exactly. It's going to suck.
Yeah, it's going to suck.
Like, do you want to live with regret, or do you want to
live with regret?
Which is going to suck more?
Right.
So that's
it.
So if you want to become a SEAL, go become a SEAL.
Right.
You know, it took
set the goal and do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, don't let anything get in your way.
So if anyone wants to try to get into these products from you, what's the best way to? Is it through Instagram or
website?
What's the website? I'll put a link in the video description.
My website is nw-recovery.com, or you can do all one word, nakedwarriorrecovery.com.
Okay, that makes it easy.
I changed it to nw-recovery because I didn't know if people wanted to write naked in their search engine. So I went NW, but it's still it's still a viable address. If you type Naked Warrior Recovery, it will take you to my website. Okay. So,
and then your social media, what's your biggest ones? Is it Facebook, Instagram?
Instagram.
Okay.
I'm not too big on Facebook because they've deleted a couple of my accounts.
Yeah, you mentioned that about how they're not. How do you describe this? Where they're not too friendly about?
They're not super friendly with CBD.
Yeah, that's interesting. They must kind of want.
And they have their own weird rules that they change all the time. Right. So,
well, the quality, like you mentioned, could be part of the issue too.
Right.
You know,
and
it's not that regulated. Big Pharma doesn't have their hand in it yet. You know.
Yeah, we'll see how that whole thing pans out.
Gosh.
But
they want you on chemical meds and not.
Yeah. So my Instagram is Naked Warrior Recovery, all one word.
Okay.
Is the best one to. I mean, if you follow my other one, it's the same content, but you know, I try to push people to Naked Warrior Recovery. So.
Got it. Well, I'm excited, and I'm actually gonna, if I can, I'm gonna try a few of these because I'm getting older and my body's hurting from all these workouts now.
Absolutely, yeah.
I can definitely relate to what you're saying when you're trying to turn away, my back, my hips, my shoulders, whatever it may be. So maybe we can do a follow-up.
Like
And I'm even considering maybe doing something live. You know, we can kind of like just talk about it prior, do something live with the audience, and that way they can do a Q&A. We can watch some kind of like live question thing or something. So if you're down, we can do that.
For sure.
Right on, brother. Right on. Thank you, man. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for watching, guys. I'll put links to everything we've talked about, and then I'm most likely going to do a round two because I like to give a little follow-up on my own experience with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
Cool. Right on, Wayne.
All right.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Cool.